On November 14th, 1989, readers of the Weekly World News were astonished to learn that an aircraft missing since 1954 had landed in Brazil the previous month, 35 years after its disappearance. According to the article, skeletal remains of 88 passengers and 4 crew members were still on board, with the captain found eerily seated at the aircraft's controls. The story also claimed that government agents were investigating the incident, but were suspected of keeping it secret. Widely considered a hoax, the tale of Santiago Flight 513 has nevertheless permeated discussions of aerial mysteries, its legend kept alive by tabloids, conspiracy theories, and, more recently, the internet. Could this story hold any truth, or is it an early and compelling example of fake news? The Lockheed L-1049 Super Constellation, often simply referred to as the Super Connie, was a prominent aircraft of the 1950s golden era of flight, utilised widely by both military and commercial operators. Known for its distinctive triple-tail design and graceful fuselage, the Super Constellation could carry up to 95 passengers and had a range of roughly 5,150 miles under optimal conditions. While renowned for its reliability, it was still subject to the limitations of period piston engine aircraft and required regular stops on long-haul journeys. The claim that just such a plane could complete a full transatlantic flight and then reappear decades later, let alone in fully operational condition, is one of the more fantastical elements of the Santiago Flight 513 legend. According to the article's author, Erwin Fisher, a little over a month before Weekly World News publication, a Lockheed L-1409 Super Constellation appeared out of nowhere, circling above Porto Alegre Airport in Brazil, and shortly thereafter made a perfect landing on one of the airport's runways. At some stage, whilst not explicitly stated by who or even how, it was realised that the aircraft was in fact the very same one that had disappeared en route from Aachen, Germany, to Porto Alegre 35 years earlier, on September 4th, 1954. The Lockheed, which had belonged to Santiago Airlines, had been carrying 88 passengers and 4 crew members when, at cruising altitude somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, the aircraft vanished after a period of radio silence. The prevailing assumption at the time, and since, was that the plane had crashed into the expansive waters. Although an immediate search and rescue operation for the plane began, no debris or provable wreckage was ever identified to confirm this theory. Following the landing, dumbfounded airport personnel entered the 35-year late arrival and were stunned to find all 92 individuals aboard and still seated, but all were skeletons. This included the pilot, Captain Miguel Victor Curry, who, judging by his position, still relinquishing the cockpit's controls, and the fact that the turboprop engines were still idling at the time the airport personnel entered the aircraft, had supernaturally piloted the Lockheed home and landed it. Not much was written about the subsequent steps undertaken by Porto Alegre, at least according to the Weekly World News article, other than Brazilian aviation officials vaguely confirming the unexplained arrival and ensuring government agents were opening an investigation. Furthermore, paranormal researcher Dr. Celso Atello and other experts, outraged at this official shroud of secrecy, began calling on the Brazilian government to allow civilians to assist in the investigation. Rodrigo de Manja, a retired physics professor in Porto Alegre and presumably one of the specified other experts, is quoted here. "The public has a right to know everything about this plane, and our government has a duty to tell them. If this plane did enter some sort of time warp, and there is evidence to prove it, the entire world should be told. Something like this could change the way we view our world and alter science as we know it. It is a crime to keep information like this a secret, especially from the relatives of the souls who perished on Santiago Airlines Flight 513. Also quoted is Otello, who claims, "Officials don't want to discuss explanations, but they cannot deny that this airplane has defied the laws of space and time, and God only knows how a skeleton managed to land it." Although Santiago Airlines reportedly went out of business in 1956, that is, assuming it ever did truly exist, some individuals claiming to be former executives and employees were supposedly still alive, though none could verify any provable evidence or significant details about the alleged phantom flight. To many, the story of Santiago Flight 513 is just that, a story, and a good one at that. Indeed, according to fact-checking websites such as Snopes, the tale is purely fictional. Even so, the story continues to enthrall those who come across it, and with the advent of the internet and social media, the claim has reached a much wider audience. Whereas for a select few, the incident is not fictional and did actually happen, but, as alluded to in the article, the truth has been discredited in an attempt to cover it up. The concept of time anomalies or spatial distortions, though purely theoretical, have been entertained in the realms of quantum physics and general relativity. And if such anomalies did exist, it is conceivable, however unlikely, that an aircraft like Santiago Flight 513 could have entered a temporal vortex or wormhole, displacing it in both time and space. The eerily intact condition of the plane upon its alleged reappearance, along with the presence of skeletal remains, feeds into these speculations, suggesting the possibility of a phenomenon beyond current scientific understanding. Though unsupported by verified evidence, such interpretations allow the mystery to persist as a provocative what-if scenario within the boundaries of fringe science. Others, however, believe that the incident of Santiago Flight 513 is a massive cover-up by global powers or secret scientific organisations. According to these theorists, the flight may have been part of a clandestine experiment in time travel or dimensional shifts, technologies allegedly developed during the Cold War. Vague reports of the plane being quickly confiscated and the incident hushed up only fuel suspicions that governments know more about time manipulation than they let on. In this light, Santiago Flight 513 becomes not just a mystery, but a suppressed truth, one that suggests our world may be stranger and far more advanced than we are allowed to believe. After all, history has shown that clandestine, even fantastical programs such as the CIA's MKULT-RA experiments or classified military projects like Aurora can remain hidden from public view for decades. In this context, it's not surprising that conspiracy theorists would propose that a time-travelling aircraft might be suppressed by global powers, perhaps due to its implications for national security or scientific control. Such theories reflect a broader mistrust of institutions and a belief that humanity may already possess extraordinary knowledge kept hidden from the public eye. Likewise, several online sites have dedicated their efforts to proving the story of Santiago Flight 513 was a hoax, their reasons for which are numerous, but include the departure runway not being suitable for the super constellation to take off from, the aircraft not having the range for the transatlantic route, there being an absence of professional reporting of an equivalent missing airliner from 1954, and the absence of any official coverage of missing airliners appearing out of thin air in 1989. Aachen, the proposed departure site of Flight 513 in 1954, does not utilise a commercial airport, and in fact the only airport that could be referred to as Aachen is Maastricht-Aachen Airport, MST, which is located in the Netherlands and not Germany. In 1954, Aachen had an airstrip, but it was exactly that, a short grass strip, which the Lockheed Constellation could not take off from carrying a full complement of 92 people. Additionally, as touched upon previously, the range of a Super Connie was around 5,150 miles, whilst the journey from Germany to Porto Alegre, Brazil, is around 6,600 miles, and despite being renowned for its dependability and long range, the aircraft simply would have had to make a stop somewhere along the journey. There is no record of any airline company by the name of Santiago Airlines having ever existed, and all evidence appears to indicate that the story of Santiago Flight 513 was a tall tale, albeit one that is just too tantalizing to let go. Furthermore, it has now become obvious that Weekly World News had a history of manufacturing stories in a similar vein to that of Santiago Flight 513. 4 years prior to this article, journalist Derek Klontz published Riddle of Flight 914, detailing the story of a Pan Am Douglas DC-4 Flight 914 that took off from New York in 1955 and was en route to Miami but disappeared somewhere along the route and then reappeared above Caracas, Venezuela 30 years later. Almost identically, the DC-4 made a perfect landing, however soon after the pilot panicked and apparently took off again before vanishing, never to be seen again. Other tales, which have been proven as fabrications, included such headlines as 12 US senators are space aliens, Hillary Clinton adopts alien baby, and Bat child found in cave. Ultimately, whilst entertaining, the legend of Flight 513 flagrantly contradicts all known principles of physics, biology and aviation, from the preservation of the aircraft after decades, to the implausibility of skeletal remains piloting and then executing a perfect landing in the Lockheed.